Hello, friends. I am recording this on my iPad because it's what I got, and I have decided that I'm going to use what I have, and I'm going to keep making videos because I like making videos, and I'm going to do it at the quality that I have, and that is okay because I just want to talk about books. This is my November reading wrap-up, so everything that I read in November and some quick thoughts on it. You guys know how reading wrap-ups work. You're on YouTube. I also have my Goodreads up over here because without my Goodreads, I would never remember all of this. The first book that I finished in November was Gone Girl. Gone Girl, I really liked for the most part. I'm not gonna do star rating right now, but I liked it for the most part. I read The Girl on the Train earlier this year, and I was not a fan of it. And now that I've read Gone Girl, I've decided that The Girl on the Train is Gone Girl fanfiction, because that's just, when you put them side by side, that's what it seems like to me. I really like unreliable narrators, and boy does this book give you unreliable narrators. It made me dislike one of our main characters and then feel bad for him, and then it managed to change how I felt about our storytellers and question who is telling what story and which one is true. So I will give it points for that. The ending was whelming. I think it could have ended probably a chapter or two earlier, and that would have felt more satisfying to me. But yeah, I mean, it was a solid read, but again, I think it just could have benefited from being done earlier. Next up, we have The Fates Divide, which is number 2 in the Carve the Mark duology. I love Carve the Mark. There's so many reasons for it. I have a whole video about Carve the Mark and The Fates Divide. The Fates Divide follows up immediately on the events of Carve the Mark, so I'm not going to go into that plot line because it is really dependent on the first book and I don't want to spoil anyone. Fates Divide was interesting. I wasn't as sold on it as I was Carve the Mark. Part of it is that Syrah's chronic pain that we see so much in Carve the Mark, we don't really see it all that much in The Fates Divide, which kind of was a falling off point for me, because it felt like it got addressed so much, and it does come back here and there, but not as prevalent, which I don't know how I feel about that. We do have a sapphic romance as our main romance, which I love. We have a character who is blind, I believe, yep. And that's great. This is a lot more political intrigue than the first one was, and I'm not big on political intrigue, and I am going to kind of contradict myself on that later, but I'm not as much on political intrigue. It takes a certain amount to get me into that, and this was definitely more political intrigue than it was the personal growth and figuring out who you are and how you fit into this society. So I liked it. I may not read it again the way that I would absolutely love to reread Carve the Mark. Ooh, The Whisper Man. The Whisper Man by Alex North. I listened to the audiobook of it. I loved this book. This was such a good book, and the audiobook was excellent. Alex North does a really good job of making you question, is this just an urban myth that's kind of getting fed into everyone? Is this actually happening? Where does all of this land? And he has the kind of villain that I love, which is one where we get to see the thought process. And when you look at it from their perspective, it makes a really fucked up amount of sense, but it's still really fucked up. I loved this book. I'm actually listening to The Shadows by him right now. I'm listening to the audiobook. Next on our list is Caraval. Now, I heard a bunch of things about Caraval on YouTube and on BookTube. I listened to the audiobook, and I'm really grumpy that I liked this book in the end. Our main character, I could not stand for the first third, 2/3 of the book. She was so frustrating and annoying, and she was clinging so hard to what she knew, even though she was kind of getting what she wanted, but not really, but she was still tied to this stuff with her. The world is so rich, though. That's what kept me going. It's colorful, it's tactile and sensory, which is always a good way to hook me in. It's super sensory, and it was so interesting, and the ending of it is so good. The ending of it is so good. And that's why I want to read the sequel. I'm still grumpy that I liked it, though. So I really like horror books. I like horror in general, and the next book is The Truth. I really enjoyed the book. I'm going to put this out there with a warning. I really like body horror. And there's a lot of stuff in body horror that doesn't bother me that freaks other people out. If you go into this, go in with that warning. A lot of people have said it's the most disgusting book that they've read. I'm just a weirdo who doesn't mind it. So, with all of that disclaimer out of the way, I really liked The Troop. Overall, good read. Beware, super gross, and beware there is cruelty to animals involved. All right, next up is Tunnel of Bones by V.E. Schwab. This is one of the Cassidy Blake books, which I've been enjoying on audiobook. They're really quick listens, and I'm sure the physical copy is a really quick read. I think this is tending more towards the younger end of YA. They've gone from, the first book is set in Scotland, and the second book, this one is set in France. So you get catacombs and ghosts, and it kind of hits the question of like, if somebody that you care about is turning into a person that you don't feel safe around, or that you don't necessarily trust anymore, like how do you make decisions about severing those ties? I really enjoyed it. These are kind of, I'm not going to say fluff reads, but these are like, I need something kind of spooky, and I don't want to get real deep into a big horror book. And this is just fun and spooky, and I enjoy them. Okay, the next one is Lifelike, and again, I love this book. This is the first work of Jay Kristoff's that I've read, and it's so good. Oh my god, it's so good. It follows this girl named Eve. She is a cyborg. It's really cool. She finds out the truth behind what essentially this catastrophic apocalyptic event was. And that event results in these 3 megacorps basically ruling the entirety of what we know as North America, the United States. It's so good. I don't even know how to say it. Like, I finished the book and I was just so angry that I had to wait to get the second one from my library. It's so good. I just finished the second one this month, and I am definitely going to be reading the third. It is a trilogy, because of course it's a trilogy. Everything is a trilogy. Yeah, I highly recommend Lifelike, especially if you're looking for something that it still falls on the YA spectrum. Sci-fi fantasy. The second book goes a little bit more in the fantasy range, but it's still very much sci-fi. And the emotions and the heartstrings right up to the last. Ugh. My next book is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. So this is the first romance book I've ever read. Like, I think I had a brief fling with Harlequin romances back in like middle school, high school. And this year I wanted to expand my horizons in terms of genre and topics and all of this. And I picked up Eleanor Oliphant. And this was not what I expected from a romance novel. It is heavy. And again, at the beginning, I wasn't a huge fan of our main character. But then the further into the book I got, the more I realized that the rigidity that she has built up around her life, and these ideas of I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, and that is the way that my life works, because it's working just fine, so why should I change it? And this is, I think, a romance novel between Eleanor and herself. And it addresses trauma, childhood trauma, relationships with parents, relationships to yourself, addiction, suicidal thoughts and attempts. It was so much heavier than I thought romance novels were. I definitely grew up with being told, like, oh, romance books aren't real books. It's not real literature, which is why I wanted to read it specifically and start reading it and see what I thought outside of what I was told as a kid. I need more. I need more contemporary romance. I will get into other books that I've read that fall into the contemporary romance, but I need more. I need more.
Hi, this is Editing Zoe. I got to this point and I realized I forgot 2 whole ass books from this month. The first one is The Wolf of Oren-Yaro by K.S. Veloso. This was a very much political intrigue book. It has some magic referenced in it, but it doesn't really come into play until the very end. This is definitely an adult book. There is a lot of trauma and discussion about like caste systems, and the main character is forced into marriage. It is the first book in the Chronicles of the Bitch Queen. How can you not want to read a story when it's called that? It's really good. It is Asian-based fantasy, which I have been reading more of lately, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a bit heftier than the others, and I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did because, again, I'm not usually one for a political intrigue book, but this one really sold me on it. The second book that I completely forgot to talk about is Warcross by Marie Lu. Now, this was almost cyberpunk-ish. You have a main character who is a girl, who is a hacker. You have this worldwide virtual reality game and environment. And I don't know how to really go beyond that without spoiling it, but it's really good. I am all for seeing female tech hackers. I love it. It makes my heart happy. And it has a really, like, the twist at the end. Did not expect it. So I am going to be reading the sequel, hopefully soon. And I really enjoyed it. I recommend reading both of those.
There are some books that I started in November, but I didn't finish until December. So that is going to be my November wrap-up for now. I hit 100 subscribers on here, which is excellent. And thank you guys so much for subscribing. I am excited to keep making videos and hopefully make them a little bit more regularly. We'll see how that goes because I am chaos. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I see you in the next video and keep reading. Bye.